But just stop. Just stop being there. Just stop. If you can't stop that, then on some level you must be addicted to it, right? If you truly were not addicted to it, you would be able to just turn it off, right?
Check, check one, check, check.
It's quite a compelling idea that I might be addicted to negative emotions or emotions that aren't productive to me in any way, even that as an idea.
We'll take the idea like this. If you were angry right now, or you were feeling sad, and I came up to you and I said, hey, Stephen, listen, I know you're really miffed right now. I know you're feeling really down, whatever. But just stop. Just stop being there. Just stop. If you can't stop that, then on some level you must be addicted to it, right? If you truly were not addicted to it, you would be able to just turn it off, right? So when people start to see that, they're like, oh my God, yeah, I could be addicted to that. It's a good moment for people.
What's it doing for me?
Well, the long-term effects of doing that, I mean, we can turn on the stress response just by thought alone. Mm-hmm. You could think about your problems and you could produce the same chemistry as if it was real. The long-term effects of the hormones of stress downregulate genes and create disease. And if you can turn on that stress response just by thought alone, that means your thoughts can make you sick.
If I know it's bad for me, like no one wants to feel sad. So why am I choosing to feel sad?
There's nothing wrong with feeling sad. It's just how long do you want to stay there?
Or angry or fearful. I don't want to feel that.
Yeah. So again, here we go. Trial and error. You got to catch yourself and you got to go, because when you're feeling sad, as an example, or you're feeling angry or whatever, for the most part, you want to stay there. Many people, like, it's just comfortable. It's some people find a lot of comfort in being unhappy. They're really happy being unhappy. So if you want to evolve your experience in life, you would say, I can change this. I literally can change it. Let me sit down and change my emotional state. If this emotion is causing me to view my reality through the lens of the past, if this reality is downregulating my genes and creating disease, if this reality, feeling this emotion, is causing me to behave as if I'm in a past reality, if feeling this emotion causes me to believe in my past more than my future, maybe it's not such a good idea that I stay there. So justified or not, valid or not, the only person that emotion is affecting is you. Sooner or later, I think when people start realizing I can change my emotional state and they really sit down, even though they don't want to do it, they do it, that's when they start feeling a lot of worth.
Joe, what is the most important question, based on all of your work and all that you do and all that you're thinking about at this exact moment and the subject of change and transformation, that I should have asked you?
Ooh. Is it possible that the human nervous system, the autonomic nervous system, manufactures a pharmacy of chemicals that works better than any drug?
Is it possible that the human nervous system manufactures a pharmacy of chemicals that works better than any drug, Joe?
The answer is absolutely yes. That's what our data shows. And it's not pseudoscience. Our data shows that the autonomic nervous system can manufacture a pharmacy of chemicals that works better than any drug. A drug trial is about 25% effective. 1 out of 4 people have a response, and it's normally over a length of time, 60 to 90 days. What our data shows is that 75, as I said, 84, 90, 95, 100% of the people that are involved in a 7-day event have these effects. So even if it's 75%, that means it's working 3 times better than any drug. And yet your nervous system is manufacturing those chemicals equal to the person's state of being, equal to their intention. And I keep asking the scientists, where are those chemicals coming from? The person's not eating a pill. They're not changing their diet. They're not doing anything. And yet what wasn't there before the event somehow is there after the event. It's coming from within us.
Is that because of some of the sort of techniques and the processes you go through at the event? Is it because of the connection of a group of people coming together and synchronizing and the oxytocin? Is it all of the above?
It's all of the above. I mean, almost 80% of the people expressing the same genes and making the same proteins, that's unheard of. What we discovered is people change people. That's what we discovered. That collective networks of observers determine reality. And it's not the number of people, it's not the amount of energy, it's the most coherence that takes place in the group. And so we're doing studies now with collective networks. We're doing studies on measuring the effects of collective consciousness. What does that do in terms of field effects and energy?
When you say all of this and you talk about this relationship between the body and the mind, it keeps making me wonder about your beliefs of a higher power or a God. Because it all sounds, I mean, the more and more I learn about the body and how interconnected it is, it all sounds just mystical. It's the only way to describe it. So I wondered as you were speaking, I wrote down on my little iPad here, I said, does Joe believe in God?
I do. I think there's one God, but in that one, there's many. Yeah.
What does that mean?
That means that God lives within you. The divine lives in every human being. That's what I believe. And I think it's really important for people to make time for it, to connect to it, to fall in love with it, to stay aware of it, to bring it into their life by staying aware of it and connecting to it. And I think the more we interact with it, I think the more it becomes us and the more we become it. And so removing the veils, the blocks, the emotions, the habits, the blind spots that stand in our way between our connection to that unifying field or God or the absolute or the creator or universal mind or source or singularity, the 0 point field, the fertile void, whatever you want to call it, the mother-father principle, making time to interact with it by removing the things that stand in the way between us and it allows us to get closer to love, right? And I think that's what God is. So the expression of the divine, the expression of God through the human being would be a person that's more conscious, more mindful, more willful, more loving, more giving. That's the nature of the divine. So its nature becomes our nature, right? So I do believe that we're not linear beings living a linear life. I believe that we're dimensional beings living a dimensional life. And I do believe in that universal mind, that universal power, and making time to use it and to interact with it and connect with it and to reach for it and to become it. I think it's a worthy journey for people.
Thank you so much for the work that you do. It's a perfect sort of combination of all the things that I think I care about, but also I think my audience care about. And if they are looking to go deeper beyond this podcast, I would highly recommend them trying to get a ticket to one of your events. Very hard to get tickets to your events. So good luck to you. But I would highly recommend they go to your website and they can see a full list of events that you have coming up there, because it can be, as I've learned from my partner, truly transformational in ways that maybe will surprise them if you can find.
I'm re-inviting you.
I need to do it. It's been something on my mind.
You should just come just for fun. I promise you'd have the best week of your life.
I know. I just see the impact you had on Mel, my girlfriend, and I'm jealous of it. It's the best way to describe it.
Nice.